On contractor stories, I love to tell stories of contractors. As a matter of fact, it's not me that tells the stories of the contractor, it's the contractor themselves. And I've got Vinny, and Vinny's from New York. We have a lot in common because, well, I'm from New York originally. Vinny, how you doing?
Very well. How are you?
I'm living the dream. All County Chimney and Masonry. I think that pretty much spells out what you do. You're in the chimney business, the fireplace business.
Yeah. To be honest with you, more because I'm right outside of Manhattan in the boroughs, I'm more into the where a lot of people think that chimney, that it's fireplace, like 80,
Mhm.
90%. But really, just about every home in the country has a fireplace that you vent your heating unit as well as your hot water heater through. It goes up a chimney. So I'm focused on fireplaces, but fireplaces is probably only about 20%. I'm
Yeah.
more into the heating side of the chimney.
Yeah. And in your part of the country in the Northeast, there's a lot of old structures, and a lot of people vent out of old brick or stone fireplaces. In other parts of the country, I'm down in Texas now. Okay, it's totally different. Everything gets sent out a flue that is made of metal, and so it's a whole different world. But I know exactly what you have to do. You have to make sure that the exhaust of the fumes goes out the right way, and you've got to repoint and all that type of stuff, right? The masonry work. A lot of people don't know what that is. Explain what it takes to, to be a mason, because that's kind of an art. Not anyone can do that.
Correct. Right. Unfortunately, I go to a lot of jobs that people, yeah, I could do that, or I got a guy, and you go there and, you know, you got to be paid for this, So, but yes, it is like an art. It does take practice. A lot of my guys, we practice at the shop before we let them go out on and, do any masonry work on the structures, on the buildings. And, it's just, like the roads in any type of, part of the country where you got especially the four seasons with harsh winters, water freezes in winter and expands and it cracks, and small cracks become into big cracks eventually if you don't, so you could take care of it now and do preventive maintenance, or 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, you're looking at a lot more extensive work that needs to be done.
Yeah, exactly. You have to keep up with your fireplaces, with your chimneys, anything that has masonry work, because what happens over time is it will literally start to fall apart. And then the bricks, the stones, everything just starts to crumble. And you have to have that maintained on a regular basis. So, all county chimney and masonry, you're up in the greater New York City area. How far out do you go?
Because I'm in a heavy, densely populated area, I probably only have maybe a 30-mile radius that I do, not above Manhattan to below. So I'll be going into like the boroughs, Queens, Brooklyn, Manhattan. I try to stay out of Staten Island because commercial vehicles to get over that side, it's a little bit, too far. And Long Island, like Nassau County, you know.
Yep. You heard of 5 Mile Famous. Dan Antonelli talks about that all the time from Kick Charge Creative. I understand you've got some exciting news. Can you talk about a rebrand coming?
Yes, absolutely. I've been doing, chimneys and stuff for 20 years, and I'm a, it's owner operator, and I had at one point up to like 5 trucks going out, but I didn't have any systems or processes in place, and I was going crazy, just like at the whole story. Everybody knows the story when you don't have those processes in place. So then the last like 2 years, I've been starting to go to a lot of conferences and networking with other people that are doing like-minded stuff and building companies and brands. And then I've been hearing the guy Dan Antonelli's name ring all over the place. And there's a lot of different companies out there. I'm sure they do a lot of good work too. But I did my due diligence, and I was looked at his company and what he did and his track record and how compassionate he is on what he does. And I decided to take not even a leap of faith. I just know his system works, and his branding is definitely second to none. And I decided, to rebrand my company so I could just, benefit in the long run, where, people think, again, like it costs a lot to get rebranded. It's going to cost you more in the long run on the back end, as far as, the advertising, your online presence and all of that. So, that's why I took the leap of faith, and not even leap of, just calculated risk. And I went with, kick charge to do my rebranding, and I can't wait. We should be launching at the end of March.
End of March, and I understand you've got some exciting news. You're adding some more things to your bag of tricks. You want to talk a little bit about the roof?
Sure. Yeah. So like I said, I do the chimneys and masonry, but a lot of times, I'm always up on the roof, and a lot of times, a lot of the roofs, if there's soft spots, if they're missing stuff, that it's out of sight, out of mind, stuff like that. The homeowner never really goes up there until there's a problem. So why not, when I'm up there, I could take pictures, show them, and I give a lot of the roof jobs to a lot of friends that I have in the roofing business, where I decided, with the rebrand, that let me incorporate that into my business, and I could capitalize on that avenue and venue, of home improvement as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I like to move into some personal questions now. Not too personal, but I'm always curious about the man or woman behind the business. Vinny, did you always know that you wanted to be a contractor in home service, or is that something you just fell into?
Well, okay. Well, since we're going to go down that avenue, that's not a problem, which is good. I live my life like an open book. Actually, I started in the restaurant business. My father, came, from Europe, came to this country. And the reason why he got into the restaurant business was because he could have food. So he could, come and work in somewhere and he could have free food, to be honest with you. So he started in the restaurant business, and, then he started his own restaurant, in like the early 70s. And little by little, he expanded, and then bought the building and, all of that. But, he actually was in that business, but with family, and me and him are two A personalities. We always clashed a lot. And the old school Europeans, they really don't want to pay you. Their mentality is, you got a roof over your head, you got food on the table. What more do you need? What more do you want? They didn't really, like to go out with the friends. That's not like part of the repertoire, when you grow up like that. And so that's when I decided, I had to do something, on my own, But I always loved my father. I loved, his values and, the way his upbringing was. At the time, I didn't see it, but, today, like the dollar, it's not easy. It goes out easy, but it doesn't come easy. You got to work hard for it. You got to put in a lot. I mean, my father was, like I said, in the restaurant business. He had his own office in the back with a shower, with a desk, and he lived there. He would come home one day a week. We would have all of our holidays at the restaurant. And it was, family business, and we would work it. And, but me and him clashed a lot. My sister, my brother worked with him, but he passed in 2013, but, he didn't provide, he didn't know how to show love, but he gave us all the love we needed as far as providing, because that's all he knew how, so.
Yeah.
And, yeah. So that's how I started, because I couldn't go with. But if we were more on the same page, I probably would have grew in the restaurant hospitality industry as well. So
Yeah,
but I guess unfortunately, so that's
yeah,
how
Vinny,
I got
that's
it.
a great story. And, it's interesting because it could be one small little thing that puts us on a path. And then as decades go by, we build this career. You've become an expert in what you do with chimneys and masonry. And it's interesting because it sounds like you're the only one in your family who knows this, as far as the talent for it, right? The skill.
Right.
Yeah. Is that something you could pass on to someone else in your family?
Oh, well, again, like going to the into the shows and home service industry, seminars and stuff. I mean, I don't have any kids, but I got two nieces, and yes, they work in the front end of the business. Like, they don't need to be on the back end. So absolutely, where I had pretty much of a clothesline thinking this is a blue collar man's industry. Well, yeah, it is. Well, not even anymore. Like, as far as the labor, I mean, for the most part, I mean, climbing up ladders with 60, 70 pounds. I mean, if a female could do, great, but you've seen more, men in the industry. But in the front end, these women are powerhouses in the industry, in the home service industry these days too. In the front end, they're great. they're unbelievable, you know.
Yeah,
So yeah, I can see it listening on to my nieces, absolutely. If they want it and they love what they do, you gotta love what you do.
you do. And there's a lot of women out in the field as well today, much more than decades ago. It's really a different world, equal opportunity for all, which is great. And
Yes.
I think it's important that everyone had the opportunity to work in home service. It's so different. It was like you were saying, it used to be really considered blue collar. I guess it is, but it's different as well. I think the difference, Vinny, is there's there's not that stigma. So I guess it's still blue collar, but people are okay with working in it. Before there was like the white and the blue. And if you were from a white collar family, you didn't do the blue collar job. And if you were from the blue collar family, you maybe dreamt to do a white collar, but it wasn't what you did. And today, it's like everyone's going this way. There's no rules anymore, which is great. You know?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Beautiful
absolutely.
thing. Mhm.
Um, in your personal life and career, do you have any like regrets? Anything that you're like, oh my gosh, I wish I hadn't have done that. And if I could go back, I would do this differently. Do you have anything like that?
Well, to be honest with you, like this, like I said, I'm going to be very transparent. I had a very big addiction and alcohol problem, which I'm 12 years sober, by the grace of God. So that always hindered my ability to excel at 1,000%,
Mm.
where I was always functional even in that realm, but I couldn't excel to my fullest potential. Where the last 10, 12, like getting sober was, oh, this is easy now. You know what I mean? So that's my only regret, but it's not really a regret because I had to go through where I did to get to where I am. So you have to sometimes go very deep into the valley to enjoy the view of the peak, you know? So I'm actually blessed that I could have, so I could see both sides of it and, and have, and be humble and be grateful, for the things I have, not what I want today.
Yeah, it's like what they say. If it's sunny every day, you don't appreciate the sunny days. So it needs to rain. To build muscle, Vinny, you got to tear it down, right? You got to tear it up so you can build it. And you don't really appreciate what you've got until you figure out how bad it could be. So what you're saying is you were down here and it was probably pretty rough. You've seen the light. You're sober now for a long time. Congratulations, that's great. And you probably appreciate life much more.
Right. Like one thing I never used to get, like my father would always tell me, you must suffer, when I was younger. And I was always like, damn, what an idiot. Like, why would you want to suffer? You don't have to, but now I get it. Like, if you don't suffer, you don't enjoy the fruit of the labor, you know?
Yep. It's, we learn more from our mistakes and our losses than our wins. We just do.
Fail forward. Just keep going forward, no matter what. Don't never discourage.
I've failed many times, but I'll tell you, the more I have failed, the less I fail going forward. So, for instance, I'm a skier. I've been skiing since I was 4 years old. I was a ski instructor when I was 19, and it's something that I do quite well. And people ask me all the time when I go skiing. I just went skiing recently. They said, "How many times did you fall?" I said, "I don't fall anymore." And they said, "Well, I thought people fall all the time." I said, "I've been skiing for 54 years. 54 years I've been on skis. I fell a lot. I don't fall as much anymore, and it's good because I'm kinda old to fall at the speed I ski, so that's kinda good too. And so it's like anything else, fall a lot when you're young, right? Like, young boys and girls skin their knees, they break their arms. I don't know many people my age who come into the office with a broken arm anymore. It happened all the time when I was a kid. There was a kid with a broken arm, sprained ankle, skinned knees. You don't see that much in adults. Well, until they get really old. And then it happens again. So I guess the moral of the story is make mistakes quick, often, when you're young, and use it as torn muscle to build.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Don't dwell on it. Take it, process it, pivot, and move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people are really good at something. They have these superpowers. One of my superpowers is I tend to be able to see things coming in the future. I'm not really surprised that a recession hits or something like that is going to happen. I mean, I see stuff coming. So that's my superpower. Do you have a superpower? What are you really good at?
I'm reading people very quickly.
Good.
You know, reading people and being pretty precise, especially, living, growing up in the boroughs of New York, that's a pretty bad area. So if you don't have really good reads at the beginning with your natural sixth sense, you could get in trouble really fast. Because I wasn't, an honor student when I grew up.
Yeah. Yeah. New York can be,
I could say,
yep. Yeah. And that's so good in business and sales as,
yes,
as a manager. Um, when you can read people, you know what they need or what they're likely to do. So, like I said, in sales, it really helps the sales process and it helps get that customer what they want. As an employee or employer for the employee, it's really critical too, because, well, that's a sales job as well on both sides. It's a management thing. And it, it allows you to have empathy where you need to, and maybe where you don't. Maybe you don't want to have empathy for someone who's trying to screw you over. And I mean, we see that all the time, right? So if you can read someone and you don't think that they're going to have your best interest in mind, that's good to know versus being kind of naive and being taken advantage of. I bet not many people take advantage of you, Vinny.
because I nip it in the bud before it starts. And as I get older and being sober, now I say what I mean what I say, but I don't say it mean. Try to be more diplomatic in the way I deliver things, which it could be hard sometimes too, but I'm always work in progress. And thank God I have these tools now, so I could be at more of a professional and even keel. And, at the end of the day too, it was always like, like if someone cut me off or did this, I would always get so pissed. But now I look at it like, maybe they're on the way to the hospital. Maybe, something just happened in their life. So, everybody's going through something in life. I can't know what they're going through, but I could just be a little bit more compassionate and deliver my message, softly where compared to before. You wouldn't want to hear how I would answer, especially in that New York, slang.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't understand New Yorkers. They're misunderstood. People from outside who visit New York will say New Yorkers are cold.
Right.
I don't think most New Yorkers would say that about each other. It's just a different type of animal. I mean, I mean, my father was born and raised in New York. I was born in New York. New York is a fast-paced city. If you're walking, you better walk fast or you'll get run over by another pedestrian. And if you're looking up, you're not from the city. So it's easy to spot a tourist, isn't it?
Right. Right. We estimate, in Manhattan alone, over 8 million people and the outer boroughs and everything, I don't know, 14 million. If I stop to say, how you doing, everybody, I wouldn't be able to get, done what I got to do today. So no disrespect, at the beginning of the day, I got my schedule, I got to do it. And I feel the only way to do it is I got to have my blinders on and just, do what I got to do, So that's just, where people lose not to lose where they think like we're cold, but it's not really like that. It's just that, it's just too many people in touch of that area. And if you don't have, your schedule and, what you got to do for that day, it's, you're going to have a very long day. I mean, I sometimes do 12, 14-hour days and only work 8 with the traffic, So,
yeah, no, I get it. I like to tell people that New Yorkers are just very direct. They're
which is good. We don't beat around the bush.
matter of fact, to the point. Yeah. If they don't like you, they might tell you. They're not going to lie about it. And if they like you, they'll tell you. I think a lot of people understood New Yorkers differently, Vinny, when 9/11 happened back in '01.
Yes.
Because they saw something, the whole world saw something that I don't think they expected, which is New Yorkers coming together. But I've always known that. It's just people don't see that.
Right.
How is how has the city and your market changed? I know you probably weren't doing what you're doing so much back then in '01, but how has the whole environment changed since 2001 in New York?
Oof, a lot. I mean, I had a lot of firefighter friends that died. I had a lot of friends that worked in that building, Canton Fitzgerald, a lot of people that were there, and a lot of people just that were working on that site, and that unfortunately been passing away in the last 5 years, a lot more, due to, health issues regarding, the site. And but I feel that they came together more as a city. We have more compassion for one another today. We're all humans. We're in a fight all, together. And I seen, everybody come together close, which was a beautiful thing. Like right after that happened, like when all the fire trucks were coming down the street, or everybody on the street would be cheering them on, like they were in a parade. Like they were, it was moving, it was touching, it was a blessing to experience that.
No,
So
I totally understand. Um, what's your biggest win, Vinny, in your life, personal or business? Biggest win. Number one thing.
getting sober.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about it.
Yeah. Well, like I said, from a very young age, I always had, like that, that A plus, that A, alpha male, and my father was the same. And, so what did I do? I wanted to numb my feelings because I always wanted recognition from my father, and I never got it. And that's always what I wanted. So what do? You numb the pain after a while. I mean, I didn't realize that while I was in the alcohol and the addiction, but as I got sober and peeled the onion back, I always wanted acceptance from my father, but he never knew how to give it. And I didn't know that. Like his father was a seaman. He was out on the ship for 8 months, a year and a half at a clip. He didn't even know who his father was, when he would come back and see him. So, you got to, when I got sober, I played back the tape and I seen like how he was, how his upbringing was. So, it's so funny. Like, it could be such a simple thing, like just getting acceptance from someone, and then you numb your pain. And it could be drugs, alcohol, it could be sex, it could be shopping. Anything you do over and over again that has negative consequences, is an addiction that you're numbing the pain. So why the pain is why, and it was probably the acceptance of my father is what I always wanted, and I never got, and due to the fact he didn't know how to give it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Again, what was the question totally again? That's good. I think I just went off a little bit though.
No. What your biggest win was, and that was getting sober.
Okay, right. Yes, and that was it. That was in, and then I spun it into why I got, the reason why I was numbing my pain was due to the fact that's probably acceptance from my father, which he was loving. He always wanted to express it, but he didn't know how to, you know.
Yeah.
Like I said, he lived at the restaurant all the time. Like my mother would only take me to the soccer games, to the wrestling games and stuff. But I wanted my father to be in the stands cheering me on. Not my mother, but my mother gave me all the love she can. But I wasn't looking at it from her. I was looking at it from him. So then that's why I got into a very bad, addiction and stuff. Problem to numb the pain. So it always goes down to why the pain.
Yeah. It's really interesting. A lot of us don't understand how important it is to mold and care for the child, because what happens is if something happens to the child, something catastrophic, or even just something over time, it can make them a certain person, right? And so when we get married, we have to have a license. It's a kind of a law, but anyone can have children. There's no course, there's no license, there's no training. And so you have these people who are in charge of raising children, and they're not necessarily bad people, but they don't know how to raise children right. So is what it is.
Right. It is what it is. But it's good though when you could experience something like that and then take a step back and look at it outside the fishbowl, because like when you're in the fishbowl and the water's cloudy, you don't really see anything until you're out of it looking in,
Yeah. Yeah. So when we're older, it's easier to peel back, like you said, and take a look at why we are who we are. And when you look at us, all of us in America, let's say, we're all from the same country. We have the same access to everything: entertainment, cars, homes, education. But we're all kind of different because of generally how we're raised usually. And of course, genetically we have differences. Some people are more prone to this or that. And it's all interesting. I'm proud of you, Vinny, for not blaming your dad. I don't think you blame him so much, but you realize that there's nothing you can do about it now. He's passed away, you've become sober, and you're moving on with your life.
And he didn't know what he didn't know.
Yeah.
He did the best he had of what he had.
Yeah. And so many people blame their parents for their problems.
They hold on to that until they go to their grave. It's sad.
Well, there's nothing you can do about it.
Right.
It's like a hurricane. Yes, it wiped out the house, but you can't dwell on it. Rebuild the house or something. But it's gone. You can't. What are you most afraid of, Vinny?
Oh, hold on a minute. Interview. What am I most afraid of right now?
Mm-hmm.
That's a very good question. I never really thought of that. I don't know. Wow, that's a very good question. I never really thought about what am I afraid of like that. Wow, you got me stumped. I don't know. I'm not really, like I said, my addiction was my biggest, 800-pound gorilla. Like to me now, everything is just gravy on the mash. It's like, I'm free from the horror,
So you're not afraid of a relapse, which is great.
No, but I'm always vigilant that it's always an arm's away. I'm always vigilant that it's an arm's away, But, no matter how much time I have, I'm always vigilant that it could, something could happen. So I want to have a very strong foundation and, always remember my past or I'm bound to relive it, So I keep it vigilant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good question. You stumbled me on that one.
Yeah. So what do you do best? Like the number one thing, it doesn't have to be business. It could be in your personal life. What do you do best?
I'm a very good leader with compassion and put others, that don't look down on them like they're always my co-workers. Without them, there's no me, we're a team. So it's a team sport. Like we all do this together, and just, having an ear open and just listening sometimes and not saying anything and just listening to what other people are going through or whatever. And if I could be there to help them, from not going down certain paths or just trying to make them excel, hold them accountable for what they tell me that they want to do. Because I'm going to hold on to that. If you tell me something, I'm going to hold on to that because you told me, and that's where you want it to go. So, and I think I'm firm and strict when someone, tells me certain things, but only for your benefit, because if you do what's easy, your life will be hard. But if you do what hard, your life will be easy,
That one.
So,
yep, that's good. What's the secret to your success? Similar question, but a little different. What's the secret to your success?
You got to have compassion and you got to have a love for what you do, like the why in life. Yeah. And, so like what's your standard? Like someone's standard is like a thermometer. It could be at 70 degrees where he could just be good at just doing a little bit. I drive at an extremely high level. Even when I was in addiction, like I was highly functional, but I never ever exceeded to my full potential, which is okay. So, I look at it like my drive and my discipline.
Yeah, that's good. One more question. What are you most grateful for, Vinny?
That I could wake up every morning with a clear head and start the day fresh with no mind-altering substances in my body, directing me to what to do. I'm free today to do as I want.
Congratulations on that. Many people can't get away from the substance abuse. They can't. Many people die young because of it. And it sounds as though you had an experience that's made you stronger.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. Yep. If it don't kill you, it should make you stronger. It better make you stronger. So yeah, I'm great, grateful for that.
Yeah, just
You
one
know,
more
path, you know.
yeah. So just one more question on that. You don't have any regrets then of having that addiction because it's made you who you are today. Like it pushed you to a point, right? So are you better off for it long term because of it?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Push me up to that jumping off point in my life where I could no longer live with it or without it. And I decided to put everything down and go forward living without it and, put the work in, like someone else who did it before me and did what they did and who followed them. And today, life is a lot easier than someone who has to wake up every day and count on something to put in their body and live like that. To me, that's the devil's working, and it's a sad existence. It's not even a life; it's an existence. You're merely, surviving, and the world is a scary place. So you have to numb it with today. Like they say in the program, like I'm happy, joyous, and free.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
which I do not regret it a bit.
Congratulations. That's awesome. Vinny, this has been awesome. I would love to have you back on Contractor Stories podcast in the future. How does that sound?
Absolutely. I would love to come back, to just share my experience, strength, and hope, and just where I'm going, what I've been through. And if I could help someone else, is just, the greatest gift in life, like success and everything is good. I've had a lot of success and stuff, but, that's worldly possessions are meaningless. It's like, what could you do to someone else to help them? That's the great, like happipiness is a byproduct of good living. If you really don't live good, you'll never really be happy. If it's always take, how much am I going to make? I want this, I want that, I want that. Because at the end of the day, worldly possessions are just smoke and mirrors. Because when you're on your deathbed, you'll give everything away for a day. They're a distraction, to be honest with you.
You're so right. Now that you brought that up, I've got to continue this interview just for a few more minutes here because you're talking my language. In today's society, we're all caught up in getting the bigger job, the nicer car, the better neighborhood, bigger house, maybe what we think is a better partner in life, a spouse or something, maybe getting rid of the old one because they're old and we want something new. I mean, and when you think about it, Vinny, now you and I weren't around, but if you go back, let's say 1,000 years, which that's not a long time. Okay. When you look at how long we've been walking the earth, we were just trying to survive back then. So we weren't always trying to accumulate these goods that we have. We were just happy to be able to survive. We didn't have the illnesses we have today because we just ate what we could find that the earth gave us. And we didn't die in car accidents or plane accidents because we didn't have those. We didn't have the same stress. We didn't have the depression. Probably less people were addicted to substances like alcohol and certainly the drugs today. They didn't exist, these drugs. I mean, alcohol did, but not to the extent it does today, I don't think. And so I think we make our own problems, don't you?
Absolutely. I mean, since we're on this page of this thing, don't get me wrong, like, the Western life, America, beautiful country and everything. I mean, it gives you, if you want to work hard and you want to do right, you could do anything you want in this world. As far as the country's concerned, I travel to a lot of like third world countries, and to be quite honest with you, it's those countries that have nothing that are the most happiest because it's all about family at the end of the day. It's the family, immediate and extended family, helping one another. It takes a village to raise a child. You know that saying. We're over here in this country, what we do is we have a kid taking care of a kid so the two parents could work. Such a big disconnect. We're in here, it's always instant gratification. How we want it now, we want it yesterday. Uber Eats, Amazon, this, that, and then it comes and then it goes, and then you're not happy again. That's why we're with the depression, with this, with that. It's sad. It's a great place, but it's also a lot of dead ends that you gotta, identify, or you'll go down very fast.
Yeah, it's that constant dopamine hit we need. Let's go out to dinner. Okay, now what? Let's do this. Let's buy a new car, but we just bought one 6 months ago. I know, but I want a new one. Let's get a new girlfriend or this or that. we don't know when enough is enough. We're not content. Okay. And contentment is very important. And this has been a refreshing conversation because we went down a path I didn't think we would go down. But speaking about third world countries, I've been to Haiti before. I'll never forget. I was out on a boat when I was there, and there were these native Haitians fishing, and the boat was nothing that they had. I mean, it didn't leak, but it was nothing special. I mean, if you were to buy that boat here in the United States, it might cost $50. It was beat on, but that was their boat. And they were fishing, and they had crude fishing equipment, nets and some fishing poles in their hands, and they were catching, crustaceans and all this stuff. And I remember this one guy who was fishing in his boat, and he passed our boat, and he smiled, and he had no teeth, but he was happy. I'll tell you why he was happy. His home wasn't getting repossessed. His Lamborghini didn't get a scratch in it that day, right? And his trophy wife wasn't cheating on him. My point, I don't know if it helps to have all that stuff. So it's interesting. It's very interesting.
Less is more. Less is more. And
I like you.
We always judge our insides with everybody's outside. Like we look at their outside materials, like the house, the car. It must be nice. You don't know what's in their soul when they put their head down at night and what they're thinking about.
You're right. People ask me, "Hey Jim, how you doing?" And I say, "I'm living the dream." And I really am. I believe that my wife and I, for the most part, have kind of balance the best we can living in this society. We could easily push more, right? We could be in deep debt because the banking system allows us to go to the edge and buy stuff with a minimum payment. And then when things break, the whole thing cracks. And then we say, well, that person was stupid. They got foreclosed on. Yeah, it's an 8,000 square foot home. They didn't need it.
Correct. Or that new car has 2 years for what?
I know.
It's got heat. It's got a picture from A to B. What do you need?
Yeah, and it is what it is. But a lot of people say that's what keeps the economy going, and the economy is the most important thing in our country. I'll tell you, because at Christmas time it used to be about Jesus Christ. Now it's about how are the stores doing, and it's really interesting. It's all about the economy. The economy. And you would think the economy was nutritious food. It's not. It's the opposite, and it's a drug we're on. The economy is a drug.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
It is.
All right, Vinny, on that note, this has been great. Let's get you back sometime soon. Okay, buddy?
Thank you, Jim, so much. Thank you for the interview and everything. Enjoy your day today. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. You too.